Man, it's a wall pass Wednesday win. All right, so there you go. Show's up and running, and you always forget something. And so for me in this case, it was forgetting the banner to get things squared away. So welcome to Soccer's Morning Show. It is Wall Pass Wednesday, which means anything's on the table. John here, Jared there, and Jarrett. Before we get into stuff, I know that folks want to talk about. Because there were some things involving Atlanta United yesterday. We've got the TV deal, Bart Keeler coming on at 9:30, Dylan Butler, Wednesdays with Dylan at 10, so it's a pretty busy show. But this morning, and I feel like I need a breaking news sounder. Just before we came on this morning, Chelsea manager Graham Potter says USMNT star Christian Pulisic will be out a matter of months. After suffering a knee injury and a loss to Manchester City, he had started his third Chelsea game in a row, seemed set for regular playing time after a strong World Cup. So Christian Pulisic out a matter of months now for both Chelsea and the men's national team. Not the way to start a Monday morning if you're a fan of the USMNT.
No, not ideal, is it?
No.
Look on the bright side, I guess, if you want a bright side. It happened after the World Cup.
Yeah.
At least this didn't happen in November.
Yeah.
If you want something, if you want to look for the rainbow in the sky, that's about where it begins and ends, though. It sucks for Pulisic just because, like, he hasn't broken through at Chelsea into that starting lineup, but they still value him as a sub more than they value selling him on. And even when he plays, he can't seem to stay healthy, and it's really disappointing for him. And I'm sure it's already in his mind disappointing because he can't get on the field. And when he does, he's getting hurt, and then he's getting an extended layoff. It's almost like Larry David is trying to play soccer.
Yeah. And you can't seem to get out of your own way sometimes. And right now that's how it is with Christian Pulisic. So Christian Pulisic out a matter of months. And officially with that news, we'll make that our opening kickoff. Brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. Kickoff Coffee available on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Follow them and all of their conversations and activities on social media. Don't forget to use the code SOCCERDOWNHERE15 to get 15% off of your purchase when it comes to anything going on with Kickoff Coffee. And they, in turn, take 10% and roll it over into the youth game and youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. So how was your Tuesday, Jarrett?
Mine was fine. I got up, made breakfast, took the kid to school, worked.
Mm-hmm.
Picked the kid up from school.
Yeah.
Came home. I made a chicken parm sliders last night. It's really good.
Nice.
Yeah, just take a. It's cheap. It's a cheap way to do it. Is take a bunch of Hawaiian rolls, slice them open, all in one fell swoop.
Yeah.
Assuming you have the weaponry to do so. Honestly, like, chicken nuggets work great for this. It's just like heat up some chicken, you put them in the oven, crisp up some chicken nuggets, put them on top of the bottom half. After you throw the bottom half in the oven for like 5 minutes to get them kind of toasty.
Yeah.
Then put the chicken nuggets on, put some marinara on, sprinkle some mozzarella over it, put the top on, put some aluminum foil on, put it in for about 12 minutes, give or take. Then 2 or 3 minutes without the aluminum foil. And then if you want to, you can do like a garlic butter and an Italian seasoning.
Mm-hmm.
Melt the garlic butter, put some Italian seasoning in it, kind of brush it over the top. Yeah, had a good dinner. Day, man. How was your day?
Trying to figure out what to do because it's like, all right.
Nothing else happened, right?
Nah, nothing.
Okay.
the news with Josef Martinez, which I figured a lot of folks wanted to talk about this morning, that happened yesterday. And as full disclosure,
Did we get a club announcement, or was it just Tenorio and Stechkal? Not to throw water on their reporting. I'm just asking if the club said anything yet.
Nothing from a club perspective yet. But
that's not to take any shots at Tenorio or Stechkal or Bogert or anybody. Not saying they're wrong or they're lying or anything. It's just I didn't know if I missed the official club statement to go along with it.
No official club statement from either side, either from Fort Lauderdale or from Atlanta. Tenorio, Stechkal, Bogert. Inter Miami closing in on a deal to acquire Josef Martinez. Final details to be sorted, but it would be a buyout from Atlanta. Miami signing him to a non-DP deal, and Bogert had yesterday that Josef Martinez was in Miami. That's what Tom Bogert was told, currently in Miami. So, it appears that the Josef Martinez time in Atlanta has found a suitor, and he will be moving on as everybody's getting into training camp. So, finalizing a buyout, pick up a portion of the salary, would not require a DP spot for either team. So that's where we are with Josef Martinez. And I know that a lot of folks had a lot to say on social media about it yesterday. But you had a feeling that this was the direction that it was heading, and it seems to be heading in that way. And it's you're if you're Atlanta United, you're probably dealing with a no trade clause, and you're trying to find someone who will sit there and take what the asset, take the asset off of your hands and sit there and say, yeah, we'll take that asset off of your hands, but because it's a no trade clause, you're kind of hemmed in as to what you can ask for in a situation like this. And so, it's we're getting close to a probable solution here with Josef Martinez, and then it comes to Atlanta United as to what they want to do in return. So, it seemed like an inevitability, and we're seemingly getting closer to that.
It sucks that it ended this way. Because
does.
I think for the longest time we all had this idea of Joseph's comments in the past years ago of he wanted to end everything here. It felt like he was a lifer. Unfortunately, we don't always get storybook endings, and it really sucks. As far as what you're getting out of this, look, I mean, if he's not going to be part of the project going forward, and that's been pretty much understood since October of last year. Be it his actions, his comments over the last few head coaches, his inability to be the same guy he was.
Yeah.
And you want to blame the Nashville turf for that. The issues with surgeries, all that is on the table for it. But if he's not going to be that guy, and if the relationship is soured that much, you don't have much in the way of leverage to do a trade.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're not going to really get anything out of it at that point. Dude, I'm just disappointed that it's ended this way. That's kind of where I'm at with it. The best case scenario was you cleared out a DP spot so you can go fill it with somebody. We'll see. I know they've been linked to one of the South Korean strikers. Mm-hmm. We'll see who else they get linked to, because again, like we talked about last week with the outgoing transfers, a lot of the stuff like Marcelino Moreno, that stuff developed and hit and was done inside of like 3 days.
Yep.
Stuff like that could happen with the striker side. We just might not. It might creep up on us. It might creep up on other depth with signing depth players too. It's one of those things that, like, until we get to the end of the month, I'm not really that overly stressed out about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just it's disappointing that it bums me out that this is how it ended.
Yeah.
You didn't have much leverage, but you cleared out a DP spot. He'll go to Miami. He's not going to be on a DP salary down there. he's going to be taking a pay cut in that. But after everything that has been going on for the last 2+ years at this point, with the kind of will they, won't they, the drama, the leaks, the articles, the he said, she said.
Mm-hmm.
It just feels like this is where it was coming to, and I don't know. It's weird. It's always weird, and it always sucks when an era ends, because this is kind of the end of that era. Now you go and kind of create a new one. And it might not be as simple as, bringing in a superstar and asking them to be that guy. Like, Josef wasn't a superstar when he got here. He was a guy who wasn't playing in Turin, who was, playing out of position a lot when he was over there in Italy, and hadn't really captured what he had done at Young Boys before, and then went to Italy and hadn't really been able to be the same guy that he was there, and came here on a loan, and you were just seeing, if you could find something there, and you struck platinum.
Yeah,
with
absolutely.
That one. And it doesn't have to be a superstar signing. It can be something like that. It can be somebody being that cult hero, that folk hero, and now we just kind of you enjoy those moments, but you do have to kind of keep a weather eye going forward, because if you, as rough as the last 2 years have been for me personally, like my opinion on it, not for me personally isn't rough, but from my opinion on it, as rough as the last 2 years have been, the longer you linger on it, the tougher it's going to be to move forward, and the higher likelihood you have of moving forward not being what you want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
It's disappointing as hell, but you do have to move forward. If you linger on it, there's no guarantee that it's going to be good going forward. You never know. Like, you get a crop up of injuries. You get just guys not living up to what they should be. It could be a number of things that mean that it doesn't go great going forward. But if you linger on what all this was, the odds of going forward not working out go up exponentially for me. And it is cutthroat as hell to think about it in some respect, in that way of, well, you gotta move forward, and you can only linger on it for so long. But if you want to be successful going forward, and let me tell you, because we saw I don't know if y'all saw the stuff out of Orlando with the signings they're making. You got other clubs that have decided to choose violence as far as building out their rosters, and you're going to have to be on your P's and Q's, because there's going to be a lot of blood to be shed around the East this year.
Mm-hmm. And I know that yesterday, when all of this reporting started happening, Tafka, I know that you've been very, very vocal on social media. And I'm going to go to your third point that you brought in this morning, and I guess work a little backward here. Gressel, Tito, Nagbe. Now, this is Tafka. Gressel, Tito, Nagbe, they were all dealt with in such a way that the relationship between player and club was unsavable. All right, let's take it a player at a time. Julian Gressel wanted a contract. He wanted to get paid. One of the things that we always have to remember here is that this is a cap league. And you cannot pay a large amount of money to one player and then jeopardize everything else when it comes to the build and the depth and all of these things. So in Atlanta United's view, the demands or requests, however you want to phrase it, with Julian Gressel, Gressel wanted too much to fit within the structure of what Atlanta United was trying to build with a roster. So DC stepped up and said, yeah, we'll pay that. And so what you were able to do was get resources back for an asset. So that was the Julian Gressel situation. Tito, Jarrett,
I'll pull up Transfermarkt. Give me a minute. I'll pull up Transfermarkt in just a second.
Yeah.
And I think Tito's played 90 minutes like twice in the last 3 months.
Yeah.
In the last 3 series of months worth of games.
Mm-hmm.
The tragedy of Tito
is that is when Jarrett's changing cells.
But Tito hasn't been able to stay healthy.
Yeah, and
that's been the damn tragedy for him.
Yeah, and so you look at that with Tito Villalba, Darlington Nagbe, and I will continue to say this every single time that Darlington Nagbe's name comes up. Darlington Nagbe wanted to go home. He wanted to go home to Ohio. And if you are a front office that wants to do players a solid, have a reputation of doing players a solid, and being a destination for players who want to chase championships, you're not going to come across as a front office and say, no, we don't want to honor that request. So Atlanta United's front office worked as best they could to try to come up with a deal where Columbus got a player coming home, Atlanta United got resources in return. So anyone that says differently, and Atlanta United wanted to sign him to an extension. Darlington Nagbe wanted to go home. And so they honored the deal that was on the table, got resources back in return. And I know that when Jarrett has researched, when he's got transfer marked up, he'll let us know. But, you're looking, you also, and I know Tafka, you're also talking about other players. You got Jürgen Damm on a free. So it's.
Yeah, you paid Jürgen Damm like over $1 million in salary. Yeah, you got him on a free. Like that was it was a gamble for sure that didn't pay off. Because again, he didn't stay healthy. But yeah, you were paying him $1 million. You didn't have to pay a transfer fee, which makes it easier to stomach. But yeah, then you tried to offload him and weren't able to, so you used your buyout on him last year.
Yeah,
it didn't pay off.
And
that sucked.
Yeah, and to Will's point, Brooks Lennon came in and replaced Julian Gressel, and I think that you've gotten a better deal. I think you've gotten a better player that has been getting national team knocks on his door. I think that when you got Brooks Lennon in, I think that you got an improvement at the position from Julian Gressel. Go ahead, Jarrett.
So the thing is, I guess for me with the Gressel thing is one of the things you can blame for that is the structure of MLS, because if you didn't have a salary cap league, maybe you pay Gressel.
Yeah.
If you can just pay guys whatever you want and you're not capped, maybe you pay Gressel and you keep him here long term on a long term deal. Mm-hmm. But because of the way the league is structured financially, you got to find creative ways. So you moved a guy who had earned, like, not even talk about with athletes, especially in football and basketball, but also here in soccer, like, you want to get to that second contract. You want to get to the I got paid scale.
Yeah.
And he did. And he had earned that second contract. You got him somewhere where he got that second contract, and you got younger and cheaper because you had to do it somewhere.
Yeah.
If you wanted to have done it somewhere else, could you have? I don't know. I don't know if it would work. I don't know how that would have worked out.
Mm-hmm.
But you had to do something. Okay, I found Tito's sheet. So for the, let's see, Primera División Clausura. Let's see. Okay, so yeah, he played. Let's see, that was July. So this was end of 2022.
Okay.
In July, he played 31 minutes. 30 minutes, had an assist. 19 minutes. Then for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 straight games, he was out injured.
Mm-hmm.
Came back, played 45 minutes, 60 minutes, injured, not in the squad, 45 minutes. I'm trying to find anything for that's all I got. Like, so that's the thing with Tito is, unfortunately, the injury bug seems to have grabbed Tito in a way that is absolutely absurd.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know, man. It's some of these dudes just hit like injury bugs, and you're like, how are you that injured? How is it remotely possible for you to stay injured this much? And that seems to be what Tito is, and it's a damn tragedy because, yeah, to Tafka's point, we saw what he could be. Mm-hmm. He was a double-digit goals and assists guy when he was healthy.
Yep. Soccer for Good OG says that Kamar Lawrence broke Tito, and she will never forgive him for that. And but yeah, and I know Tafka, we've gone back and forth about notions and salary caps and things like that. But the getting back to the Josef element, if you're dealing with a no trade clause, and there is so much animus with two parties, if I'm an individual that is looking at my current employer, no, I don't want to be here, but why should I make it easy for you? And so that's how I'm viewing this. And we see this in any sport, but in this particular instance, if I'm so, if I'm so over being here, why should I make it easy for my current employer to get rid of me? Well, why? I mean, that's, that happens in a lot of sports that we've seen in the past. Why should I make it easy for my current employer to send me someplace else? I want to make it as difficult as humanly possible. And you're in a situation in a league where apparently now they're starting to have the idea about intra-league trading now.
Yeah, the timing on that could have been a little bit better.
Yeah.
There's a lot that MLS needs to fix about a lot of things. There's a lot to say about the way MLS does things that could be changed and modernized and not be such a damn annoyance, honestly. They could get off their ass and do a lot of things about that. And some of that could be, hey, open up the salary cap so guys can spend whatever the hell they want.
Yes.
That'd be awesome. I would love that.
Mm-hmm.
I would love it if you just opened it up and said, hey, LA, Atlanta, New York, hell, Kansas City. Hey, if y'all want to spend like millions of dollars, you should just go do that.
Yeah. And right now you're stuck. And so you're trying to find a dance partner in a deal with a player whose contract is troublesome. And
the no trade clause is an important part of that, unfortunately, that you're talking about.
I mean, because I imagine that's what we're dealing with.
Yeah, because if he doesn't want to, if he doesn't want to play ball in that way, then you are kind of between a rock and a hard place.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and yeah, he's under no obligation to
be nice.
He's under no obligation to like take an offer. If I don't know, man, if Houston comes up and says, hey, we'll give you such and such for Josef, if he doesn't want to go there and he has a no trade clause, he's under no obligation to take an offer he doesn't want or take a place he doesn't want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
that's how no trade clauses work.
Yeah, and so that's what we imagine the conversations are like. But yeah, the whole intra-league trading thing, that would have been nice. But what I'm imagining, if this deal does happen, is that Josef will be taking over the Gonzalo Higuain position from last year.
And Taka, to your point about like you don't make it difficult to trade somewhere else, it might have been like the only offers he had were to places he didn't want to go. I guess that's what I'm getting to is if that's the case, if they're willing to just cut him loose and do this kind of buyout thing that they did, then he can pick his spot.
Yeah.
So everyone does come out on the other side with the options of keeping designated player spots open if you're Atlanta, and he gets to pick his spot. Yeah. It's not ideal for sure. Yeah, you absolutely want to get something for him, but if he can dictate, if he has a no trade clause and is dictating where he does or doesn't go, I think that's the thing about it for me is you're looking at a situation there where it's he by just doing the buyout, you get him off your books, you clear up your DP spot, and he gets to pick where he wants to go. Because at this point, he might just be about, hey, I know where I want to go, and so might not want to make a trade because they know that you don't have any leverage. So just go ahead and cut me loose, and we'll just call it a day.
Yeah. So that's where we are at the moment in trying to lie in wait. And speaking of lying in wait, he gets to lie in wait no longer. 9:30 means Bart Keeler on a Wednesday. Morning, Bart.
Good morning, everyone.
So what is the mug this morning, sir?
WVU
Yes.
Reed College Media.
Okay.
Our basketball team is going to play tonight, attempt to play basketball tonight. Hasn't been great the past 3 outings, so we'll see.
Well, I mean, so
let me introduce you to Kennesaw State basketball post Tony Engel.
Right.
Yes. So it's life with Thuggy Bear sometimes can be a little difficult, but by the time you get to tournament time, conference tournament time, he's really going to be a pain in the butt for folks. So keep an eye on that in the coming months. So so Bart, nothing happened yesterday when it came to MLS at all. Nothing
at all. No news. No news from MLS.
Oh man, your conversations that you've had on social media leading into today, nothing is official. Things are being reported that Josef Martinez is heading south. That's obviously been the big talk here in the first 25 minutes of the show. But with that information coming forward from say 30,000 feet, what are you staring at?
I think Jarrett, when I was coming on, was talking about some of the positives of this for both parties. I think it sucks in a lot of ways, but it is a good thing ultimately in many other ways, most of those looking toward the future of the club. And I know it's really hard to divorce the idea of Josef being the heart and soul of not just, Atlanta United, but soccer in Atlanta, and to an extent Atlanta itself. He is and was the face of Atlanta sports or at least a face of Atlanta sports for a couple of years there. And it was really cool to have that as soccer fans, to have a guy that beloved in the city. The unfortunate reality, and I'll continue to say this, is Josef proves time and time again to be a pain in the ass, and not the positive one. In many instances, especially it seems like this year. And again, the unfortunate reality is injuries change people. I think Josef was never able to get back to his 2018 form after his injury. This is just, ultimately a long. It was a malicious conspiracy by Nashville SC to derail Atlanta United so that they could be the best team in the South, because they knew that they were building a stadium and they wanted all the attention on them. They still haven't won a damn thing, and they're jealous. And that's really what happened, is they went out there and made sure that Josef was injured, never could recover. And this is where we are now. This is all Nashville SC's fault.
I wish I had a helicopter drop. I really do.
But, turf is the only place you can get injured. As that's what I've been told.
Yes.
Turf is the only way that you can be injured.
Absolutely true. So, and we were talking about it before you hopped on. I think that if this does, in fact, end up being his destination, meaning Intermas FC or Intermessi FC, depending on how you want to look at it, I think he takes the Gonzalo Higuain role from last year, but the question will be, does he
might run a little more?
But does it? Well, you never know.
He's going to run at all, then he's going to run a little more.
Yeah, that's the thing here, is that do you accept that Gonzalo Higuain role? And we know that that Phil Neville does not allow for certain individual types, as he learned from his time at Manchester United, that the certain individual types are not allowed, and they're not allowed at Intermessi FC either. But so I think that he turns into Gonzalo Higuain 2023, and we'll see if he embraces that role if Inter Miami is in fact the destination.
Look, it sucks that he reportedly will be taking a TAM level contract in Miami, because I think that was something that I've always said, is he clearly is not worth a DP slot and contract right now. It's just the unfortunate reality that he is not. Is he worth $1 million plus? Sure, that's still a TAM level deal, but I don't think he is worth a designated player spot anymore, because he doesn't have the overall name recognition to warrant that at this point. And, you know, he is a legend in MLS, but we sometimes forget how small MLS is. You know, and he's not going to be selling tickets in Miami the way that I think he may have been credited for here in Atlanta.
Yeah.
So it sucks that it's going to be a lower contract than he had here in Atlanta, because I think, if anything, that shows fractured the relationship is between Josef and whoever is making decisions and whoever he hates in the front office currently.
Yeah.
And that part really does hurt, because you for a man who professed his love so much for Atlanta, sucks that he feels that it's time to leave. Now, granted, Atlanta United kind of played themselves here with the having now to use the offseason buyout, because it seems like they told Josef, hey, we don't really feel you have a future here. That gets leaked to the media. Felipe reports it, and now people know that we don't really have a plan for him, and they don't feel like we deserve any sort of compensation for getting him from us.
Well, but at the same time, though, if there is such animus, and like I said, I made this point before you came on, I said, if there's such animus involved, why make it, and this is a point that we were discussing, why make it easy for the front office that you have issues with to deal you? Why should I make it easy?
100%. And I think, I mean, I'm not trying to paint Josef as a villain here, but like, people forget that Josef is also part of these decisions as well. Yeah. This isn't just Carlos Bocanegra saying, hey, we don't like you anymore. You know, Josef is very much part of all of this, and he is to blame for a lot of this. And no one wants to really look at that. But at the end of the day, I think Carlos Bocanegra has done more damage on his side than Josef has from his side. And clearly, to your point, there's a lot of animus, I think, from Josef toward the front office, because I think he doesn't feel like the front office has done right by the club or by the players. And maybe that's very true. And if he's not going to be fully bought into that, to this club, to the front office decision making, to the point where he has argued with every, like, not just like disagreed with, argued publicly with every coach that has existed here in Atlanta, and yes, that includes Tata Martino, then
that should it should tell you something.
Good luck, Phil Neville. Good luck.
I know. So I know that you also made the point yesterday about the intra-league trading. You know, it would have helped maybe a week ago. Yeah.
Man, Jared, I don't believe that Tam Gam, thank you, ma'am, fam, wham is good enough for Josef. You know, like I wanted a couple million in transfer money for him, but the unfortunate reality there is we're not going to get that because of MLS roster rules.
Yeah. We were talking about this with you know, the Gressel stuff of you know, talking about past guys. Like it's so damn difficult to figure out like what's happening in this league at any given moment because of the way the roster rules work. It's really annoying. It would behoove them to actually simplify things, or at least give you some level of transparency of how things work, other than we waved a magic wand. Okay, then what happened? We waved another one.
The Garber wand goes into the air, and then magically things happen. The rabbit off of smoke.
Garber wand sounds like the most annoying thing known to mankind, and I am upset at the concept of a Garber wand, even just the concept of it. Like,
you wave it and magically you get $250,000 of money that doesn't actually exist.
Yes.
Woohoo.
Well, hey, you know, that
just free the whole damn thing up and go Wild West with it. Let people spend what they want. Let them do what they want.
And I think that is the key here, is that, you know, at some point you got to take the training wheels off of the bicycle. And you're a top 12 league in the world right now. I think that's a safe assumption.
Yeah.
And there has to be a point where individuals who have invested in this league want to sit there and want to invest more, because when you invest more, your value of your property goes up, and it makes it that much more valuable as a part of your own portfolio. When you have the financial shackles and handcuffs there. You can't, and all you can do is use a Garber wand to help you with your finances instead of doing your own investing. I think that's where we are. We're to the point where at some point in the near future, you've got to take the shackles off, and you've got to sit there and it's like, look, I've got owners that want to invest. I've got owners that want to do things like in Dallas and Philly. They want to do things a certain way. They want to go through the academy. You've got folks like here in Atlanta and Seattle.
I'd love for Atlanta to go down that road. I would love for Atlanta to become, to get to the point where, and I'm hoping you're working in that direction with, some of the homegrowns you got coming through. I'd love for them to get to the point where, you're filling out more of the roster with homegrowns than shopping outside.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Yes. And so I think that you're going to have some owners who go through academies like Dallas. They want to build that way and then have the occasional transfer like we saw with Ricardo Pepi. You have others, like Philly, that will want to invest in one way, then bring in the high-priced talent to accentuate that. But you have to give the option sooner or later for folks who want to invest and do it one way and bring in all the high-priced folks, cool. You want to build from the bottom up, you want to do it that way, cool. But I think that you've got to give the folks the option. You can't just sit there and pin them in with contracts and Garber wands and caps and things because I think that you stunt your growth that way.
Yeah, it's one of the many roster rules and mechanisms that I would eliminate.
The Garber wand. You take the Garber wand in the match.
Number one would be frickin' homegrown territories. Number two would be the
AM.
No, or the why Cristiano Ronaldo is going to Sporting Kansas City. I can't even think of the discovery rights.
Discovery rights. I was going to say
get rid of those. You did not discover Cristiano Ronaldo. Stop.
But he's a fantastic talent. We'll discover him. Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
But I know
my Irish roll can't even begin to capture the emotions I feel about discovery frickin' rights.
Okay, so other things that happened in the meeting yesterday were. The league is considering best of 3 playoff series for the first round. Multiple folks have told The Athletic. Bart is already shaking his head and going to the coffee.
Bart, do you got anything stronger than coffee?
Not right now.
Because he's dealing with Adobe.
You might say it's early, but
yeah,
it's not that early.
Probably only the first round would be contested as a best of 3 option. Sources who are not authorized to speak publicly about the proposed changes said that the rest of the playoff tournament would likely.
Hey guys, I've got to step away for just a second. I'm sorry.
Step away.
He is going to get something stronger than coffee.
I think so. But you've got the sources. Proposed format would be divided by conference. It would include 16 teams, 8 each from the East and West. Sources didn't know the exact details of how the potential best of 3 would be contested. Several noted MLS used the format in the opening 2 rounds of the playoffs during its early years. In those series, first team to get to 5 points advanced with extra time added to the third game in the event that the teams finished regulation tied on 3 or 4 points. Best of 3 proposal now seems more likely to be adopted than previously discussed proposal that would have changed the playoff format to include group and knockout stages. But, I mean, Jarrett, what you're looking at here is a TV partner that wants to try to maximize revenue. And how do you do that? By putting more games out there. We know this from the National Football League. That hey, it's like, oh, we've got a wild card. Oh, hey, here's a second wild card. You're adding games. We saw it in Major League Baseball. We've seen it in the National Football League. And now with a new television partner that wants to maximize revenue and get more games on their television product, then you're going to see things like this as an idea.
Yeah. And that's the thing is, like, I don't love the idea of a 3-game series personally. This isn't baseball. This is basketball. It's a different sport. It shouldn't be treated the same. I don't know. Like, I don't know if I'm being, too grumpy about it or not. But that's how I feel about it. Like,
I mean, for me, I
don't love it.
I enjoyed, the idea of the 2 legs, like 4Card says. Go 2 legs. Give me 2 legs. That's what I want. That's what I'm hunting for is 2 legs here. But once again,
they already decided they don't want to do that. So
yeah, and so obviously, any idea that I put forth, no one wants to hang out with. But no, I think that seriously, this comes down to television content. I mean, think about what the 4-letter does with ESPN events. The bowl season is a television series for them. You're filling up 3.5-hour blocks of programming from sponsors that you've never heard of before, and folks gravitate to the product. So with adding games, you're trying to draw more eyes to your product, especially in the new years of a television contract with a partner that has invested an ish load of money into this deal, and they want eyes to draw. So what do? You draw more eyes, you have more games, you have more opportunities to do that. So I get the idea. I'm not a fan of the best of 3, but if you want to go back to the old 5-point bit, you want to go back to the old days and go best of 3, 5 points advances. Hey, give me nostalgia. I'm all for that. You want to run that game? That's cool for me.
I mean, whatever, man. I mean, just give me 2 legs like you had. You went from this you went from this 2-legged philosophy that was fine.
Mm-hmm.
It worked. It made things fun. You had that, and you went away from it.
Yeah.
And now you're gonna end up with almost some bastardized version of it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Cool. You want to do the 3, whatever, man.
Yeah.
You're going to end up in this situation where you're kind of getting you it might be a more intense version of it ultimately.
Yeah.
But you're going to end up with this this version of, we're going to get as many games going as we can. Okay, great. Now what? Okay, well, now we want to adjust things, and now we want to tinker with things. If you would have just stuck with, 2 legs, we wouldn't have had this problem, and I wouldn't have had to listen to people get up on their high horse about whether or not they believed in, the 2 legs working or not, that sort of thing. And then finding reasons not to like it, and one officer the best because everybody has to go for him. Not always. We literally learned this lesson with RSL, rolling into playoff games and not getting a shot away and getting it to penalties.
Yeah.
Look, there are drawbacks to almost
you were
every
going to
format.
go in a different direction when you were going to say, and RSL not giving a I was waiting for a different word.
No, I mean, I'm trying to keep it slightly cleaner, just a pinch. But you had all of that set up, and look, it was set up and it was fine, and then you changed it and you got weird, and now you're going to go back to kind of sort of similar to what you had, not exactly.
Yes. Kind of sort of close,
just
not really.
Screams unnecessary to me. And look, yeah, there is, like I was saying, there is no hard and fast magic bullet perfect playoff system. Everyone's going to find something to complain about, because if nothing else in this world, if you want a guarantee in this universe, it's that people are going to find something to complain about.
Yes.
Just the nature of the universe.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, and Ricky, I know that you want to you want to pick something and stick with it, but when you're dealing with a new television contract and you're dealing with a new partner and all of the maximization of not necessarily profit, but the maximization of your product to try to draw in more folks, you're going to change things. And that's just how it is. You've got a partner and they want to sit there and try to figure out how they can maximize revenue, and they want to figure out also how they can get more folks to watch. And so you're going to have, the par 3 tournament on television in Augusta when that tournament is up and running. You're going to try and find other things to do. You're going to have ancillary programming. You're going to have stuff in front and behind. You're always going to, I know, Ricky, that I know you want to try and figure it out, But and yes, Ricky, you do get full and total credit because yesterday when Ricky asked about the broadcast teams and we said we hadn't heard anything, sure enough, it happened. So Ricky, I think you should use your powers for good, especially here for SDH content. We can continue to talk about things. So, but no, I think that literally it comes down to what you're doing. Hey, I'm the new guy. I want to do these kinds of things. I want to sit here and look at A, B, C, D, and E. I want to see how we can push the envelope. I want to see how we can bring more eyes to it. I get it. Am I a fan of all of the juggling of look, I mean, when they added wild cards in Major League Baseball and when they added more wild cards in Major League Baseball and when they added more wild cards in the National Football League, was I a fan of it? No. I got it. I understand why.
And ultimately, I assume that's what's going to happen here. We are all going to be cool with it, ultimately. We're all eventually going to be fine with it. It's not going to make me, like, not watch and support the league. I'm just going to be annoyed for a while.
Yeah.
Let me be annoyed for a while, and we'll go from there.
Yes. And I think that's the key is that folks will be annoyed and then you'll just kind of get used to it as long as it's not just a one and done kind of a thing with everything that's on the board. I mean, Tofka's got a point. You know, he's not going to watch a 3-game series. MLS might do focus groups, Tofka. I don't know. But, I mean, it'll be on and around. But what you're looking for those fans that duck in and the ones that you can grab and keep. You know, the hardcores may not watch all 3 unless it's your team. It might be just something where you're like, okay, I'll watch here. It'll be on in the room. I'll switch around back and forth, those kinds of things. But Apple and Major League Soccer are looking for more subscribers. They're looking for that day pass. They're looking for the subscriber. They're looking for folks to continue to watch and forget that they might have signed on for a subscription and sit there and go, oh, it got renewed. Oh, there's that $5 bump or whatever. No, they're looking for subscribers. They're looking for renewals. They're looking for the day pass. That's what it's all about right now. And so Abby says she was just asked to join an MLS sponsored thing where they give you polls. So focus groups, okay, not necessarily a surprise that you're going to have focus groups to discuss what's going on too. So, yeah, and Michael, to your point, I mean, right now it's just a discussion. So Apple deal was announced late last year. Now they're getting around to figuring out the playoffs. Does it happen this year? Does it happen next year? We'll see, but you've got to give it enough of a runway to, you know, if you announce it in February, you know, if you're a couple weeks away, Jarrett, you figure if it's going to be something done for this season's playoffs, yes, the playoffs are all the way down in the fall. Then as long as you give enough of a runway where you sit there and it's like, okay, here's the deal. We're changing our playoff format because we're heading into a new season. So, I mean, I figure as long as it's done sometime before the new season starts, then you're in fairly safe waters when it comes to saying that it's going to be a part of your new league going forward.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, I'll get over it. No, I will. I mean, it'll be fine. Like I won't be. Yeah, well, I'll get over it. I'm just annoyed that like we're like tripling back at this point of, you know, galaxy braining ourselves into what might be and what might not be. I'm just annoyed. Yeah, I'll be annoyed for a while and I'll get over it.
Right,
not the end of the world.
No,
and me being annoyed is the last thing they care about anyway. So
right,
that's fine. They got a league to run.
No, and Michael, it's not about the series, I don't think. Michael says surely Apple's not thinking a 3-game series between 500 teams is going to drive new subscribers. No, but what they're looking for is that, like I said, they're looking for that day pass. They're looking for the new person. They're looking for that person who's just drifting in. It's like, oh, my team is on. I think I'll go and check it out. See, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to draw in the first timer, and keep them. You get them under the tent for the first time. You find a way to keep them. They can
first taste is free, boys.
Yes, and then you continue to work going forward there. I know that Bart wants to talk about the women's national team. We can talk about the HBO Max and TNT broadcast deal going forward when Bart pops back in. He might pop back in at 10:30. Like I said, we're hoping that Dylan Butler will join us at 9:55. I mean, so in short order, I know that you turn into a pumpkin here in a couple of minutes, right?
Yes, you're correct.
All right.
2 minutes.
All right. Well, then
now.
What else is on your mind before you go?
I mean, I know the Twitch pitch exploded with everything, and yeah, I mean, there's gonna be a lot of discussion about it, a lot of raw damn emotion about the Josef Martinez thing, and everybody's gonna have different opinions on it and different nuanced sides of different opinions of different opinions. Is what it is, man, and it sucks. Again, it's very annoying, but here is where we are. And just like I said, you kind of now you see where you go, because you gotta move on at some point.
Yeah,
and it is a cold and frustrating place to be, because to the idea of, well, damn, now we have to move on. Yeah, you do, because if you don't, there's no, I think you do make it tougher to go forward if you just don't let things, like, you'll do the thank you, all that jazz, but if you don't just let things, if you don't just intentionally move forward, it becomes tough as hell to move forward. And at some point you got to, and there's no good or easy way to do it.
No. And Kai Kamara announced on his social media that he's asking for a trade from CF Montreal, soon to be Impact, probably, hopefully, maybe. So
never, it won't be.
Something to keep an eye on is Kai Kamara, because Kai is one of the names that's still out there as one of the highfalutin free agents, and so we'll see what's going on with
Kai's still out there too. And I mean, I hadn't seen him sign with Boca yet, so
nope. Yep. So look, keep an eye on Alexander Cayens is another one of those names. Tommy Thompson signed with your Quakes. That's off the board. Matarrita to Alabalense. That one
Thompson, former homegrown.
Yep. So there's some names out there, and you got your handful of names at the top of the list. And Alexander Cayens is definitely one of them. All right, so we'll see you tomorrow.
Yep, sounds good.
Jarrett Smith, everybody. That's Jarrett for the end of hour number 1. And so just before we bring in Dylan Butler, what I'm going to do is drop everything down to 19. Bring in the music and read a promo, so that way we can get the promo out of the way. Bart Keeler is with the real world getting in the way. Bart's going to try to join us again at 10:30, because I know we wanted to talk about women's national team and stuff like that. But first, the promo. For odor-free, clean, fresh air, one place you need to go. It's the Lemonize Service. Deodorizing enclosed spaces like houses, apartments, and condos. The Lemonize Service has created a customized solution that eliminizes all organic odors, including those like pet cigarettes and food. Realtors and property managers use the Lemonize Service to eliminate bad odors to help them sell or rent their homes that much faster. The turnkey process makes it easy to work with said realtors and property managers. Kind of the environment we like that these days. A very green way of going about rid of odors without any kind of toxic residue whatsoever. Different than Febreze or our favorite masking agents that we have either underneath the sink or above us in the cupboard, because when we reach underneath the sink or above us in the cupboard, we take out the masking agent, we spray it in the air. That's why they call it a masking agent. You're just masking the odor. You're not attacking the problem all the way down to the molecule like our friends at Lemonize Service do on a daily basis. Pricing very, very easy, one of two ways, either by cubic feet or parts per million, to come up with a price that's affordable for you. A Lemonize Service offering results in 24 hours or less. If you have any other questions, this is where I pick up my pen. Go to the website for Lemonize. QR code over my left shoulder for those of you watching on Twitch, lemonize.com. But do us a favor here at SDH. After the .com, go /Atlanta, so they know what part of the world that you are addressing them from, so they can help you attack your problem. Full homework assignment, ELIMINIZE.com /Atlanta, lemonize.com /Atlanta. A Lemonize Service, proud sponsors of everything SDH on a wall pass Wednesday. Dylan Butler hopefully joining us coming up with Wednesdays with Dylan coming up in short order. We can get his take about, we haven't even talked about the TV announcement yesterday with all of the names that were brought on the list. Great news for Mo Adu, Jillian Sakovits, friends of the show there. Great to see those names, and we'll go over the names coming up in short order and discuss all of that element that came in with Apple TV, MLS, the U.S. Women's National Team. For HBO Max, we mentioned Luke Weilman, the other names that were attached to that announcement we'll get into as well coming up in hour number 2. Like I said, Bart Keeler hopefully rejoining us at 10:30 after the visit from Dylan Butler. We've got gossip, rumor, and innuendo. And speaking of which, this morning, it's been a busy morning in the French Football Federation. Remember the conversations that we had about Zinedine Zidane, where Noel Le Gret said that he wouldn't even pick up the phone for Zinedine Zidane. Well, apparently Le Gret has been forced to stand down just weeks after the defeat. Decision taken following an emergency meeting of the Triple F in Paris. And you had for clumsy remarks made about Zinedine Zidane. And then also the number two, they're also separating from General Director Florence Hardouin until the audit that is going on is the results of the audit will be found out as well. So there you go. So busy day at the Triple F. That's what happens when you have Kylian Mbappe and everybody sitting there and saying that they were displeased. Hopefully that this gentleman is not displeased as we bring him in for yet another Wednesday. B2, 3, 4. Dylan Butler. What's the mug this morning, sir?
Let's see. Let me get it for you.
See, this is important television. Folks need to know.
I know. And I can never get it. There you go. Blessed.
There you go. Okay. So, you know, with silly season, I guess, is it technically silly season or is it just the January transfer window?
Oh, I think anything that doesn't involve a match week is silly season in MLS.
Okay. You know, we had the big announcements out in San Jose yesterday. There were a couple of things that I wanted to talk to you about with that. And I know that a lot of folks here are discussing what Tenorio Stejkal and Tom Bogert were getting into yesterday with the probability of Josef Martinez moving on to Inter Messi FC.
Well, and also there's breaking news right now.
What?
Do you have one of those sounders as well?
Oh, actually, here let me do this. There.
All right. Charlotte FC, not a surprise, but the Enzo Capetti signing is now official.
Okay, so Enzo Capetti to Charlotte, and that is something that that we had kind of been staring at and wondering if it was going to go down. But Enzo Capetti to Charlotte, so Charlotte ain't messing around neither. And that was part of a larger discussion that we were having in hour number one about the growth of the league in and of itself. And you've got to get to a point where I think you've got to take the training wheels off. And as a top 12 league in the world, dealing with all of the Garber bucks that go on and the salary cap, I think that you've got to either expand it, add a DP, take the cap away, period. I think you're getting to that point with all of these names that are being drawn into Major League Soccer.
Yeah, no, I agree. We've said it before, right? Like it's a couple things with that, and with the Apple deal as well. It's I think this is a very interesting time, I think, in MLS, right? Like you've got the ability to really push the entire league up and maybe put it into a top 10 league, right? In the world type of thing. But yeah, I think there's some mechanisms that need to happen to get there. And we mentioned it before, luxury tax and raising the roof a little bit to force those who are at the floor to move up as well. So,
well, and yesterday, we've got all the fun that is coming out of San Jose, and there's discussions now, and we knew that there was probably going to be some kind of a tweaking to the playoff postseason format. And now it looks like the idea is to go back to the 3 games, best of 3, like it was in the absolute beginning. Yeah. But if they want to go all the way back, you got to go to the 5 points advance. Otherwise, you go to extra time, kind of a thing. When you saw that come across your bow, what were your initial thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, why not just also have the 35-yard shootout as well, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I would be such a fan of that, because it makes too much sense. It really does. When you get to have things like this. But we were having the discussion. You have a new television partner that wants to maximize revenue or supplement revenue. You're trying to bring new folks in under the tent. You want to try to make sure that you are looking at things where you have more opportunities to showcase your product. And by that, I'm not necessarily talking about Major League Soccer. I'm talking about Apple Watches and all the ads and all the Apple promos and things that you can run inside. You're trying to figure out a way to bring new folks under the tent. You're trying to find new ways to maximize your content. And so something like this, instead of the group stage World Cup thing that was put out there, I mean, you're trying to figure out, you're trying to bring as many episodes of a program, for lack of a better word, to Apple TV. And so they're thinking that this might be a way to do it, I guess. Maybe. Perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, you and I feel like we're in the minority of liking the two legs, right? Like it's done throughout the rest of the world. Now, the argument against it is it doesn't give the higher seed a big advantage other than having a second leg at home, right? So like each team has a home game, so it essentially that's equal. I do like what they do in Mexico, though, right? Like if it's what is it, right? If it's tied at the end of the two legs, the higher seed goes through, right? I believe. Yeah. I like that as well. I mean, it would be awkward, I think, to the American audience, right, to understand that, but that's an advantage the higher seed gets. And you and I, we've said this before, right? I'm also a big hockey fan, right? So I'm not suggesting it be a 7 games series, but I'm all about like the series in general. I think there's terrific drama and storylines that emerge from these things. So I'm not opposed. I like this idea better than this super complicated. Again, everything's got to be World Cup because we just had a World Cup format and group stages, and like I'm fine. I'd rather the two legs. I like this as a second alternative to that better than the World Cup stuff.
All right. So then also the discussion about intra-league transfers. I think folks in Atlanta would have liked this to have maybe happened like a week ago, maybe, if we're discussing Josef Martinez. But finally, the idea of an intra-league transfer market could be introduced as soon as this summer. Currently, MLS teams not allowed to buy or sell players for cash to or from other MLS teams. They can trade them for allocation money, but this is the wording from The Athletic. That isn't real-world currency, just an MLS budgetary device. The policy made sense during the league's turbulent beginnings when some owners controlled multiple teams. MLS has grown to a point, and we've talked about that. Some concern in creating new areas where teams would have to pay training compensation to fellow MLS clubs due to internal sales. Payments are avoided with trades. Also questions about how it would be executed legally because all players are contracted to Major League Soccer, not the specific clubs. So it technically is not a sale between clubs. Sources were not clear how the questions would be answered. Should an intra-league transfer market be introduced? Intra-league transfer market, sir. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I feel like any roster movement is complicated in MLS, right? So I feel like in a way that maybe makes it a little less complicated.
Yeah.
Where you're not forced into a trade and these weird, tam gam,
blam.
That's gonna be a new one, I think, this year, right?
Yes. Budgetary limited allocation money. Blam.
There you go. So yeah, another one that I'm not, I don't see an issue with. I think the points that you mentioned at the end does make it a little bit complicated for the league to figure out, but I don't. It's not a deal breaker, right?
Mm-hmm. No, I'm with you there. When you've seen a lot of the moves, you mentioned Enzo Capetti.
Yeah.
What other moves?
That's a good move, by the way, I think.
No,
for
doubt.
Charlotte.
No,
Yeah.
and I think that Charlotte is not backing down from anything, and I think that's
Yeah, no. I think I like their I I like their preseason in year 2 or ahead of year 2 a lot better than I did their preseason to year 1.
Yes.
There's a clear idea of what they wanted and what they needed. Capetti, the sporting director, the story just published on MLSsoccer.com from Tom Bogart, saying Capetti will be a nightmare for defenders, a fox in the box kind of a guy. Obviously, coming from Argentina, I think he is a missing link for them, and they were rumored early on, right? With I don't even know if you can call it sweepstakes, right? But involved
The
potentially for Josef Martinez.
Yeah.
So they found Capetti, which is, they knew that they needed that spot, that position to fill, and they went with Capetti here, who again, I think that's a good move for them. I'm definitely interested in what they will look like on the field in year 2. And again, I've said a big fan of Latanzio, having seen him a little bit, a few years back, obviously with Vieira here in New York City, but he's got, great ideas. I've seen him work, training sessions before. So yeah, definitely interested in Charlotte this year.
I do want to ask about Josef Martinez and the probable move to Inter Miami coming up in just a bit. But yeah, with Capetti, who you say is a fox in the box, we don't know if he likes locks or if he's a fan of mocks, but we'll definitely see.
Or Dr. Seuss.
Or Dr. Seuss, and figure out how he wears his socks. But we'll see how
he likes green eggs and ham.
Yes, most certainly. Sam, I am, no doubt about it. But when it comes to other moves here in the January chaos or leading up to January chaos, who have been other folks that have intrigued you with pickups so far, do you think? Anybody in particular?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think there's been a few, certainly we spoke about it last week. I think Aaron Long to LAFC, thus far among the free agents, the biggest move. I like the move for Toronto with Hedges. I still think he's got some years in him. And obviously they desperately needed a center back.
Yeah. What about Sean Johnson, by the way, kicking the tires in Toronto?
That's super interesting. I feel like if you're an NYCFC fan, the longer that you realize that Sean Johnson and Alex Callens are not signed, I think you're getting the shakes a little bit. I think honestly, I think Alex Callens more than Johnson right now.
Yeah.
And Callens is a guy who's even, right, there's been talk of perhaps to Atlanta.
Accurate. That's true.
Which I think would be a steal. And I think that combination, like if you can put a healthy Miles Robinson with an Alex Callens to his left.
Mm-hmm.
He's also a guy that's been able to play in a three center back formation. He's a guy who's also got up the field a lot, man. Like he was almost like a wing center back at times,
like a striker back.
Yeah, and he's finished, man. Like he's not just PKs, but like super dangerous on offensive set pieces. So and obviously a regular for his country as well. So I think for Peru. So I you could argue, because also Long is coming. I mean, he not coming off right now, but again, he's not the same defender of the year as that before the Achilles injury.
Yeah.
You could argue that Callens is actually the biggest prize overall in the free agent market. So that would be a massive pickup for Atlanta, and for Toronto too. That would be a huge upgrade in a position that they another desperate need for them, right? So and conversely for NYCFC, that would be a huge loss. I think Callens more than Johnson, but I don't know if they can afford to lose both.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, if you were to add Alex Callens to the mix, you'd have basically two striker backs on the left-hand side with Andrew Gutman and with Alexander Callens, who are more than happy to sit there and bomb forward and be a part of an integrated offense. And so I think that would make things really interesting. So since we're on NYCFC, obviously, with all of the pieces that have been lost, I mean, goodness gracious, you're looking at NYC and you're looking at a lot of the youth now with a lot of responsibility coming up in 2023 because of everyone who's departed.
Yeah, crazy to think, right? Like they are almost unrecognizable from the team that won MLS Cup just 2 years ago, right? Mm-hmm. Like, and it's really interesting, sort of when these things hit teams, right? We've seen it with Atlanta, right? Before, like, you knew after the Cup win, like, I think it was right after that, right? That Miggy went to Newcastle.
Yeah, because he got the curtain call, and with I think 10 minutes to go, he got the curtain call, and everybody got the chance to say their piece. Yeah.
And Tata leaves, and I think it's not dissimilar to what we're seeing with NYCFC, right? But I think it's been a little bit more drawn out, like across a season and a half, maybe, or a half season into the off season. Because Ronnie Dyla leaves, James Sands goes, right, and then now the bigger pieces, the guys who were part of the core, guys who they re-signed before winning MLS Cup, Tinnerholm, potentially Johnson, certainly Maxey, Callens is another guy, so Eber, right, as well. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be, I just did, I think it dropped today. I just did a piece for my latest OSDB.
There you go. Get the plug in.
Sports.com piece was about teams that I thought were the most intriguing in this preseason. And they were one of them because of all of the moves and now trying to figure out who fills those roles. Is it filled within, right? As you mentioned, young guys maybe stepping into bigger roles. But also, I think you trust, if you're an NYCFC fan, the vast scouting system that City Football Group has. Yep. And you've got to say, for the most part, that they've hit on their signings. So, you trust that system a little bit, and you hope they get it right, because right now that you don't have that Maxey in the midfield, and that's going to be a huge loss. I mean, again, maybe it's because I would see him every day, or I would see a lot more of him maybe than, out of market people, but, probably one of the most underrated players to ever play in MLS. And I think it's funny, now that he leaves, now you're hearing others say, yeah, one of the best number 10s to play in the league. But he was, for sure. Right. So that's a massive hole to fill. Talk of Talles Magno now becoming more of the regular number 9, even though he's a better winger or more productive as a winger. So, yeah, a lot of question marks. Again, that's what makes them an intriguing team in the preseason. And still, the two big pieces in Johnson and Callens are not signed yet.
Okay, so then because I want folks to go and read the article. So without going into detail in the article that we want folks to read at OSDB Sports,
correct,
who should be intriguing but currently isn't, that folks should sit there and have the siren going because they haven't been intriguing so far in the offseason? Is there anybody that's been stubbing their toe? Is somebody that should have been? Isn't
the definition of a team that stubs their toe in the preseason is the Red Bulls, right? Always, it's a consistent, right? Like it's like this, the sands of time, right? Like this is what they do. Very, very quiet. There's talk of a new deal for Lewis Morgan, which I think is absolutely essential for them.
Mm-hmm.
He was definitely their most consistent attacking piece a year ago, and I thought that move and that's why they didn't have a super quiet offseason last. Or sorry, they did, with the exception of their biggest addition, which was Lewis Morgan, right? So that was huge for them last offseason, but they haven't made that big move this offseason. So yeah, you always put them into that mix. Maybe Miami, right? But we expect that now to change pretty soon.
Yeah.
So they'll be making their noise. And now that Capetti comes to Charlotte, they were a team I didn't list among my 5 teams, but maybe I probably should have.
So like 5B is now Charlotte.
Maybe, yeah. Like I listed the Galaxy as intriguing because I think there's still moves to be made.
Okay.
The Cabral, getting rid of Cabral was a great move.
Yes, it was.
Even though they're still on the hook, right, for like half the salary.
Yeah.
They do free up the DP slot now. You would hope or expect a similar situation with Douglas Costa. To have Ricky Pooch for a full year now, I'm super excited about that.
Get your fantasy teams ready.
What's that?
Get your fantasy teams ready for Ricky Pooch.
Yeah, for real. And now the intrigue there, kind of, right, is who will be those wingers, right? Like who will be those additional pieces who will serve balls in and help Chicharito, who's what is he, like 35, 36, but he's still obviously bombing in a ton of goals. So,
well, and Chicharito, because of the Bishop being able to come in and help in those, it seems like Joveljic has found his place, at least under Greg Vanney, for the final 20 to 25 minutes. Comes in, is that second to Chicharito to draw folks away, and then of course Joveljic scores a goal traditionally with like 10 minutes to go, and everybody goes crazy. But I think that the Galaxy have been intriguing and should be intriguing. What does LAFC now do now that they've been alerted that Gareth Bale is retired? John Thornton basically said, "What? We were getting ready to have him come in for training camp, and then his agent calls and says, nah." So,
John? Are you a Seinfeld fan?
I recognize Seinfeld for its cultural importance.
All right, so would you get like a reference then? Because I'm
sure I would.
I thought of Bale as like he scores that goal, right? Like he was largely, you would say, probably disappointing, right, for his signing, considering his resume. And then he scores that goal, and it's like he was like George with the joke, right? Like with the jerk store.
Yes.
Yes. You have to go out on that note, right? Like so he's like George. All right, I scored the goal. See ya.
Exactly right. Yeah. And I'm out.
Yeah. Like it's not going to be a higher level than that.
No. And so you score that goal, and if you missed Ramsey Sandoval's call, find it on Twitter. It's tremendous.
Yeah.
Held the note for 18 seconds, which is really strong. That's a great set of lungs. You look at, you mentioned intrigue. Let's go ahead and talk about Atlanta United. Let's talk about Josef Martinez and the intrigue.
They were on my intriguing 5.
And so, with the intriguing 5, with the addition of the probable move of Josef Martinez to Intermas FC or Intermessi FC, however you wish to describe it. It's intrigue on both sides, I think, because of Josef leaving Atlanta United. He's obviously not the same player and hasn't been since the Nashville injury. But now, and we were talking about it in hour number 1, I think that he is now to assume under Coach Neville the Gonzalo Higuain role from 2022. I think that that's the role that they're looking for Josef to plant himself into in 2023. What do you think about the probable move of Josef Martinez to Intermas?
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest, maybe to use the word of the day, intrigue, right?
Intrigue.
Like, what is, or who is Josef in 2023? You know, is he a Joveljic? You know, where he, I don't think he's a
But would he accept the Joveljic role?
for sure, right? I think you give him the keys, you give him the ability or the opportunity in the beginning to play 90 and or start at least, right?
Yeah.
And show what you have. I think he'd be highly motivated, certainly in the beginning, right, to prove that he still got it. Whether or not that's true, we'll find out. But I think for a Miami to kick the tires like that, I like it. Because again, it's a position of need, and we don't know yet, right? Like what they would be giving up, or the exacts of a deal like that. But I think it makes sense for them, right? Because if it fails, I can't imagine they're going to be in for a long-term deal. No big deal, right? Like we tried something and it failed, and we'll see if we can get the World Cup winner from Argentina sometime in the maybe later than sooner than they hoped.
Yeah. Off-season buyout would be used by Atlanta United. Inter Miami would then pick up a portion of the salary. He would not require a DP spot for either side.
Perfect.
So that's how it would be massaged under the current rules of engagement for financials, is what it's looking at right now. When it comes,
they still have the two, I think, right? Like the Pizarro situation.
Yeah. That's the other thing that has to be figured out.
Yeah.
So there's currently two, and they've got to figure out what it's going to look like for their DPs when it comes to Josef probably heading to Inter Miami as we discuss it. When you look at, they also had the big TV announcement yesterday.
Yeah.
What did you think about just the overarching announcement of some of the folks that are going to be involved? We figured that TT, once he announced he was leaving the four-letter, he was going to be heading in that direction. Yeah. When you look at the announcement of the TV folks and the TV contract and the personnel that have been picked up, what'd you think?
Yeah, I like the I like a lot of the announcers and the analysts. It was good to see also even more former players, guys who like Sasha Kleshin, right? Like guys who are recently retired and being a part of it. Sebastian Letou on the French side. I think that's interesting as well. And also, like, I think maybe a little bit lost in this because people could start to say, well, how about our guy? Or, this guy is great, or what have you. I think it's important to understand that there's still going to be more announcements of talent, right? Like this isn't the only people who are going to be on the air. This is just the first that they've announced. Obviously, it's the core group. But yeah, I think like a few that I've been like Danielle Slayton, I've been a huge fan of, and I thought her work in San Jose, like she was underutilized.
Yes.
Like I think for the most part they had her like a sideline, right? Like she needed to be more involved in that. Honestly, she should have been the analyst on that crew. So great to see her as part of this deal as well. Jillian, obviously, folks in Atlanta know her well, and we do up here as well. I think she's awesome. She'll be great in her role. Twellman obviously kind of being the DP of
that was the DP sign
of this deal. Yeah, no, I can't. I like it, and it's I almost said intriguing again. It's interesting because then you get the other announcement, right, of the U.S. men's national team stuff or the national team stuff with their new deal as well, and maybe a little bit under the radar. Super excited to see Kyle Martino back.
Yes.
As well. I know he's had to kind of work through some things, but I loved him with NBC in the Premier League, and it's great to see him back and giving his analysis with the national team games.
All right, so you've kind of plugged the most intriguing teams for OSDB. What else is going on with you in Varsity Media and MLSsoccer.com these days?
Yeah, I mean, just coming off a game last night. It's funny, like I had that whole time off, and
there's no such thing as time off, sir.
I feel like I'm in the first week of preseason, man. I'm like feeling it. Like this is, once I got into, a couple of days of work now, and driving into Queens and doing a game yesterday, and have another. I think my next broadcast is next Tuesday. St. Francis Prep Stepanak, which would be a big Catholic basketball game. We're already starting to get the lacrosse schedule together.
There you go.
I think I counted like 35 regular season games. Maybe that number is probably going to go up from there. OSDB, the TV stuff is exactly what we'll talk about in the next article. And then we'll start kind of going through, counting down into the start of the regular season. We'll obviously have the previews of the Eastern Conference, Western Conference, but also I think, and it could be some good banter for us going forward as well. Maybe guys who could be the MVP, who are potential breakout stars.
Okay.
Some stories like that. I think we'll also follow up leading up to this MLS season.
What you said. So as always, Dylan_Butler, MLSsoccer.com, OSDB Sports, and coming out to every single Wednesday, hanging out with us on a Wall Pass Wednesday. Dylan, my friend, great to see you, and we will continue trucking right through the preseason because I think the season is going to start before we know it.
Yeah, for sure.
Be good. Dylan Butler hanging out with us one more time as he salutes being blessed with the mug. So that means he leaves. That means we add back in Bart and Jarrett for 10:30 and beyond. And so is everything cool, Bart? Are you okay? Everything's where at? Come on,
Bart's muted.
Bart, you muted yourself.
Impromptu meetings that didn't need to be meetings are.
That's literally what life is, my man.
I know. And I specifically chose this time, John, because this is not a time that we have meetings. And then someone's like, "Oh, we need to meet about something." I'm like, "No, we don't."
And so it turned out that you had a meeting that you didn't need to meet about.
Well, we certainly didn't need to meet about it right now.
Okay.
Just put it that way.
Yeah,
all right.
Did not need to be urgent.
I've never once had a meeting like this had to happen right now.
Yeah. It was a random and urgent call, and I was like, "This is not urgent." But oh well.
Okay, so
here we go.
So where we left off with the two of you in hour number one, I know that a lot of folks and you guys have been fantastic on the Twitch pitch this morning, having conversations about everything that we've been putting across the collective bow this morning. But one of the things that we didn't get the chance to talk about, Bart, was the women's national team, both the TV deal with HBO Max /TNT and the roster. And I know that you had a roster issue and you were waving your flag in the air about an omission. Do you want to go TV deal and crew first and work backward, or do you want to go roster, vent your spleen, and come forward?
Let's piggyback off of that last conversation with Dylan and talk a little bit about the TV deal and everything.
Right,
so,
right on.
I do think the biggest thing is this is just another media service, a streaming service that fans have to subscribe to. I think that was a little bit of a miss on U.S. Soccer's part. Obviously, as much as we would like to have Fox and ESPN a part of these things, it's very clear that the linear cable networks are not as interested in jumping onto U.S. soccer. That means MLS and U.S. soccer the way that they are in other leagues, and that's unfortunate. But very glad that HBO and Turner will give this the coverage that it deserves. You will have pre and post game analysis for all the matches. Also, apparently in their release said no commercial breaks, so that's fantastic. So in that regard, I think that's the catch-22 or the trade-off you get, because we're seeing that with Apple right now and this is the landscape of media right now. Does it matter that you're not on actual cable television? Or does it matter that your sport, your matches are getting a lot of coverage and discussion around them? That's my kind of that trade-off you're getting, because you weren't getting that with ESPN, flat out.
No.
You weren't really getting that with Fox on the national team level either. It's not like they were doing a big pregame show. They certainly weren't doing anything postgame other than just the generic sign-off. So that in itself is a positive. We're not going to worry about a replay of the NASCAR race somehow cutting into U.S. soccer coverage. So those are positives. I am, again, concerned that we're having to pay for another streaming service. Are the bars going to get it? All that type of stuff. But I think most of the big matches that you want to watch are definitely going to be on Turner. I think Turner, it would be dumb to not have, the big matches. We still don't really know what's going on with Nations League either, because that is CONCACAF. I know U.S. Soccer gets the the non-finals package basically, but we're not quite sure that. I'm assuming that'll be on CBS and Paramount Plus, but we're not 100% sure on that either.
Right.
So a lot of things to fill in, but I think the talent on these games will be really good. I think that keeping Julie Foudy is fantastic. I think she'll probably. I kind of hope she's a lead analyst for both teams, because I think her input and her read of the game and her knowledge is applicable to soccer as a whole. But good to have Kyle Martino and DeMarcus Beasley. DeMarcus has been interesting. I think he is not your typical. He's a little bit like Dempsey, where they're not like polished reporters, broadcasters. They kind of don't have a problem saying things with a little less refinement, and that's kind of cool.
Yeah. Here's your rundown: 20 plus matches a year. Luke Wildman, who, for those of you that have ESPN Plus and watch games involving TFC north of the border, Luke Wildman comes in for play-by-play. DMB, Julie Foudy, Shannon Box, and Kyle Martino are your analysts. Sarah Walsh is going to be your studio host. And for those of you scratching your head about Sarah Walsh, Sarah played soccer at the University of
Minnesota. That's a big get. Like, honestly, that's a big get for them, I think.
And Melissa Ortiz is going to be your sideline reporter. So 2 women's national team friendlies at New Zealand, and they're going to be on HBO Max only. And I think that this was because it was a carriage conversation, and I think that's why it ended up with HBO Max. Since I already have like 9 gazillion streaming services, I think we already have HBO Max here in the house.
Yeah.
So it's like, which one am I? I got that one.
The positive is I don't think it's a super high price, and HBO Max does give you a lot of other things. So it's not like it's not like when you were asked to join Paramount Plus at the beginning and was like, what am I getting with this? HBO Max is an established streaming service. So it's just, again, one more thing to have to get into.
Yep. Ricky Ricardo says if you have AT&T, you get HBO Max for free.
There you go.
So that's a part of it. Soccer for Good OG, as a part of our discussion here this morning, says that soccer viewing consumption has matured. The traditional broadcasters' treatment of it has not. So I think that what the
I'd like for her to expand on that a little bit.
So OG, expand and expound, and so we can discuss that. I think what she's getting into is that you're seeing soccer broadcasts on streaming services, and it's not, to your point, tied to getting bumped over to like 3 or 4 different networks, and you're having to fish for it. You can actually find it if you know that it's, even if it is a streaming location, it is in a home where it will exist. But when it comes to, say, the 4-letter and how they treated it and basically buried it and had, it's like, all right, we're going to have programming on the Plus, but you've got to go find the Plus and subscribe to it. The traditional outlets that we're used to seeing the coverage in have diminished. And when it is coverage, Jared, is not something where you're going to sit there and go, yeah, it's going to be the lead story on our sports news program because we're not a rights holder for it, so we're not going to talk about it in earnest. I think that's what OG was getting to here.
Yeah, sports has changed. It's not just soccer. Sports has changed as a whole because of the way we consume. We consume not just games but information. Like you're not. It used to be back in the day. Like you were. I remember as a kid. As soon as the Braves game was done, you were clicking over to Baseball Tonight to see what else happened. You were checking the newspaper on the mornings to see, like, were there any stories? What were the standings? Who was doing what? Who had the league leading home runs? Who had the league leading runs and rushing yards in the NFL? Where you're updating stats like that. We consume not just the games, but the information of the sport itself at such a fast clip that it's almost like we don't have time for those 30-minute shows anymore. Like, and I get like that, Fox's NFL coverage was really good for a really long time, for their pregame show.
Yeah.
But how often aside from the NBA TNT show, which is the gold standard for my money and what they do, aside from that, how many people are actually like sitting down to absorb those shows versus a whip around show? It's a different animal.
Yeah.
Where it's the same thing with like what Red Zone Network has been for so long. I want to see the action. I don't want to see what's happening between the 20s in a football game. I want to see the action. I want to be able to check the Galazzo show and be able to see, hey, we're going to be talking about the games. We're going to be showing parts of the games. And, oh, we had stuff happen in this game. Let's take a look and see what's going on. That sort of stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, Jarrett, we have that with Paramount Plus. They've done a great job of delivering Champions League, Europa League in very astute and in-depth coverage. I don't watch the post-game stuff about Champions League or Europa League. I don't care. I watch the lead up because I tune in early. Like it's 2:30, I might as well turn it on because so that it immediately goes over to the game, when I start watching it. But I'm like, it's not like I need that before the game. But it's nice that they're doing this on HBO because now US Soccer and HBO and Turner can talk about this as a whole, whereas I think that the notion people are the idea people are operating with is that soccer was talked about on mainstream sports and was given that time on your linear broadcast channels, and it just wasn't. So being able to create that on your own, and that's what we're seeing with Apple and MLS, is they're going to be creating their own content throughout the week, it seems. That wasn't happening outside of maybe Football Americas or ESPN FC, which still wasn't really talking MLS all that often.
Yeah. And what it also does is it creates opportunities for each MLS franchise to figure out how to do things in 3 dimensions. Yeah. You've got, if your team is known for its social media and its multi-pronged approach to sending out information, where just as in Atlanta United as an example, you're seeing it on YouTube, you're seeing it on Twitter, you're seeing it on the Facebook page, you're seeing everything being pushed to their different social media channels. It won't be as much of a shock to the system.
Right.
In Atlanta, in these new ideas, and what you're referencing for those who might have missed it, is that Pablo Maurer had a string of discussions. He had come across a document saying that these were the expectations of local teams by Apple and Major League Soccer going forward as to the information that they wanted to have pushed out. So MLSist on Twitter, Pablo Maurer had all of that stuff that was being expected. But we're seeing a lot of that already with Atlanta United. It will be interesting to see which teams struggle with this and have to devote resources that they hadn't devoted to previously to put out this kind of information. But with teams like Atlanta United, who already push all of this stuff out, it's just more of the same. You're just getting more from what you were getting in the past. And, more is good. We like more, basically.
Yeah. I think what it is these soccer entities in the US are taking control of the content that's being created because they tried to give that control over to who they thought would be good partners, media partners, and those media partners failed them on that. And I think that's the thing that I'll keep going back to is, people say, oh, well, we might lose viewers if we go to Apple TV. Don't pretend like you had a lot of viewers on Fox and ESPN. Yeah, I think the main audience you're losing is Spanish speakers on TUDN, but again, you weren't growing in those broadcast numbers and those viewing numbers. So if you're worried about people not finding it organically, people don't really do that anymore, and two, it wasn't like it was happening in the current state of things.
And what it also does is it creates opportunities on the audio side for local stations and the teams themselves. I mean, Nashville doesn't have Nashville has a local radio deal, but they also have their own app. So anything that they want to push out in an audio sense, they can do that. West Bowling and everybody, it's there already. So this also gives teams that may not have an audio presence the opportunity to take those resources, reallocate them, and continue to push out that kind of information. So, like I said, it's going to be really intriguing to see how teams respond to the ancillary openings that are there because of the TV deal and everything heading toward Apple and streaming. All right. So, Bart, you also wanted to talk about women's national team. World Cup team is beginning. 24-player roster named for the trip to New Zealand, 2 matches against the Football Ferns. Who's in and who's out? Sonnet Williams in. Sophia Smith, Rapinoe out. Let's see. Other injuries. Vlatko said Tierna Davidson is rehabbing with Wolfsburg from the ACL tear. Kelly O'Hara out with a hip, returning soon. Katerina Macario, ACL tear. And we got into ACL tears with the German article yesterday. Macario back in team training next month. Also sidelined Mewis, Press, Dahlkemper, Tobin, Heath. 24 players were announced. What do you think?
I think that Vlatko is shown that this is his preferred group of players. There haven't been a whole lot of additions or subtractions. The additions were people who came back from injury. Crystal Dunn, one of those. Lynn Williams, one of those. I do think it'll be interesting to see how this squad fills itself out for the World Cup. Obviously, FIFA has decided to do a FIFA thing and go back to 23 players for the World Cup, which I think is just, again, dumb in general. I don't know why we're so restrictive on all this, but that's just me.
Well, I don't think it's just you, but
it's not. It's not. I don't know. The best coach of the women's game is mad about it, so I feel in good company that if I'm agreeing, if Serena Bigman has the same opinion of it as I do, I think we're good. But no, I think this group has kind of solidified itself. I think it will be very hard for Vlatko when because I think a lot of those players who are injured are top tier players. We're talking Kristen Press, Tierna Davidson. O'Hara was a starter before she got hurt. There's a lot of Katerina Macario. There were women who were playing and starting every match, or at least every other match, who are now hurt. Obviously, Sophia Smith is one of those who just was named U.S. Women's National Team Player of the Year and NWSL MVP and NWSL Final MVP, like every award. So it's going to be very interesting because you see Lynn Williams come back. Well, Lynn Williams plays as a wide forward. Well, that's what Sophia Smith plays. That's also what Mal Pugh plays. That's also where Trinity Rodman plays and Midge Purse plays and Tobin Heath plays and Kristen Press plays. So, I think the issues are going to be for Vlatko when he actually has to make these decisions, because we saw him put together a tournament roster for the Olympics that was not very good. And then he underutilized the players that I think he should have utilized in that tournament: Lynn Williams, Katerina Macario. It's going to be a lot of pressure on him. There's already a lot of pressure on Vlatko because the team's performance hasn't been good now that we've been playing good teams. So, was that a season of bad play, or was that indicative of how we're going to be going forward? But I think overall this roster is fine. I don't think there's a whole lot of players right now that you could add or subtract that would make it better.
All right. So then you get to play GM.
Yeah.
How would you tweak it? Because let's see. I'm trying to. All right. So Aubrey Kingsbury was passed by Adriana Franche because of her NWSL season. So Kingsbury's probably now 3B. Franche is up. Crystal Dunn, Haley Mace, they weren't in Mexico. They're back. How would you tweak it if you were in charge, if you were the general manager of all things USWNT or USWNT? N is after M, John. USWNT. How would you have sent them to New Zealand?
Well, the one player that everyone wants to see is Mia Fischel, who plays down in Liga MX and had a very good college career and is lighting it up in Liga MX. She has, I think she scored 18 goals last year, 17 goals, something like that. Basically an average base, almost a goal a game, which is definitely a higher clip than even Alex Morgan's had in NWSL last year or Sophia Smith had. And it's no doubt that she is a prolific goal scorer in Liga MX. I don't know where she fits into this roster. I think you could make the argument she's probably better option than Ashley Hatch. I don't think that would be something that I would not argue anyone about that, right? I think she's probably better than Ashley Hatch. I don't think she's better than Alex Morgan. I don't think she's better than Katarina Macario. So right now you're talking about she's your third striker on the depth chart. When, again, you're only going to have 23 players, you're only taking 2 strikers. To me, it's very clear that if she's healthy and back to form, your 2 strikers going to Australia and New Zealand are Alex Morgan and Katarina Macario. So for me, Mia Fischel, who's 21 years old, by the way, very young, it's okay to acknowledge that she is both a good player. She is playing well in a league that, I know this does not make people happy, but a league that is inferior to NWSL and the other leagues that our players are currently playing in. I know no one wants to hear that. It's really cool that Liga MX has a lot of people watching their games. It's fantastic. Good for them. It is not as good of a league.
It's very lopsided in a lot of the
very lopsided. The stat about, we have the most goal scorers and we also have the most clean sheets. Well, yeah, so does Celtic. That doesn't mean that Celtic's playing in the best league in the world, right, Jared?
Bring that in.
Nope. But like that's what it is. Like Celtic is a very good league. Tigres are a very good team in a bad league. Celtic and Rangers are very good teams in a league that, quite frankly, is not very good. It's on the level of them. I don't want to say not very good, but on the level of MLS, right? Like, let's not pretend like these are world-beating teams out there.
Oh no, I have long argued that I want a MLS versus Scotland like ACC. You know how we do like ACC Big Ten challenge?
Yes.
I want that because I feel like you'd get some really stupid games, and the bottom tier of MLS would absolutely abuse different parts of the bottom tier of Scotland in a way that would make Scottish fans absolutely lose their minds.
Nothing wrong with
that. And that's just where I am with Mia, is that I think she's a very good player who, in my opinion, deserves a call-up because I think she has proved that she needs to be looked at. You're looking at her as the third striker, right? You're looking at her as, is she better than Ashley Hatch? Which Ashley Hatch also is not far removed from having an MVP top goal scoring season in NWSL. So there's a lot of discussion about Mia, and it needs to come with some sort of recognition that Liga MX is not on the level of NWSL. It's not on the level of Division It's not on the level of Liga FA. It's not on the level of the WSL or the Frauen Bundesliga. They're just like, those are, and I don't even think the Spanish Women's League, Liga FA, is that good. I think Barcelona is very good, but it's okay to recognize that. It's very similar to the discussion we had about Jordan Pefok and Haji Wright, right? Like, they're scoring a lot of goals. So in my opinion, they deserve to be called up because you should call up people who are scoring a lot of goals. But when Pefok was scoring a bunch of goals in the Swiss League and Haji Wright scoring a bunch of goals in the Turkish League, you're not equating that to the same level as like, well, they're not no one's comparing them to Lewandowski, right?
Mm-mm.
We were comparing them to, well, they're scoring on a pace similar to Jesus Ferreira, who all those leagues are kind of in that middle ground of like, they're fine. But me official is going up against, Alex Morgan, who just had the most goals in NWSL last year. So it's okay to say Mia deserves a call up. It's not okay to pretend like her level of competition is the same as the other players on this team right now.
To give you an idea about Liga MX Femenil, there are the 18 teams. After the Clausura has just started. So for those of you that want to see...
Which, by the way, I think may be the biggest reason we haven't seen Fischel in this camp.
Yeah.
Because we are lucky to get Haran. Haran plays for Lyon. They have a couple of games during this time frame, but they'll be okay. They can allow her to go. I just want to point that out there as well. Like, I'm not saying she would have been called up, but like, she's in season. So,
and just to give you an idea about the discrepancies that you were getting into, Bart. 18 teams in the league. Round 1 results in the Clausura. Juarez won 7-0 over Mazatlan. Tigres won 6-0 over Atlas. Chivas Guadalajara Femenil won 5-1 over Pumas.
Yeah.
So, and then you had other teams playing,
Look, and there are a lot of things that Liga MX has done well. Like you said, 18 teams. That's more than we have in NWSL. Mm-hmm. They're mostly all connected to, they're all connected to the a men's club, who has started and invested in the women's game. I'm very happy to see both the Mexican Federation and the Liga MX teams investing in women's soccer. That's something that we need more of here in the United States. But I mean, you just pointed out, like, yeah, there are really good teams playing really bad teams.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have those score lines in NWSL because the talent is spread out amongst all 12 teams. You take San Diego Wave. No, sorry, you take LA Angel City, who did not make the playoffs last year. And you're going to tell me that they're a worse team than Chivas, let's VFFR.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's stuff to kind of pay attention to when you're looking at the women's national game. Jarrett, what else is on your mind this morning for Bart?
I mean, that was going to be a lot of my questions for him pertaining to the national team, because we're kind of like, we discussed the circus that was the men already, but it is fair now, I think, to shift our focus. They don't get our attention anymore. You can go sit in the corner, men, the national team. You can go sit in the corner for a while, think about what you did. Mm-hmm. Also, someone mentioned yesterday that like all of the Austin official press releases don't have Claudia Reyna's information.
It's funny, right?
Amazing how that happens. Because I said that day, like, I don't know how you keep them employed at Austin. I don't. But
I can guarantee you that they are probably pursuing any and all legal
making sure all the dots are crossed and the I's are T'd.
Yes, absolutely.
And
mm-hmm.
Anyway, we're not going to worry about them because we do have a Women's World Cup coming up. And I have no idea how we're going to deal, people are going to deal with the fact that not only the U.S. women, probably not, I don't know if they'll be favored in the books in Vegas.
They are.
They are? Okay.
Yeah. Well, I
feel
think
like that's
England is number 1, the U.S. is number 2. Which
I feel like that's easy money.
Yeah.
For Vegas. For people who are lazy bettors to go, U.S. national team. U.S. is always good at soccer. It's kind of the same thing of the Bart D. Anyone who's spoken German's never been a bad guy.
Yeah.
That's stupid easy money that Vegas is going to be getting out of some people because I don't have a lot of faith right now in them. I didn't have a lot of faith in 2018, and they made me look dumb because veterans galvanized and got the job done, and Jill Ellis hit the right buttons.
Mm-hmm.
I hesitate to explain this because I don't want it to sound like I'm waiting for the bad thing, and I'm just going to keep predicting the bad thing until it happends, and then I look.
That's right. My job, Jarrett.
But I don't want it to sound like that. But that's kind of where I'm at with it mentally. Is I'm kind of waiting for the shoe to drop here, where you know what, they absolutely made me look like a fool 4 years ago. Can they do it again? I don't know. I don't think it's the same kind of animal. I don't think it's 2022. 2018 Megan Rapinoe ain't coming through that door. 2014 Megan Rapinoe ain't coming through that door. Are you going to get somebody who is just going to put together some insane standout game-winning performances? I don't know. It feels like that's easy money that Vegas is going to be taking from people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who else other than? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're good because I mean that's the thing, right? Like, you got Germany, who made a final of the Euro last year and were without their best player in that final. Spain is the one that a lot of people want to put money on. I'm still very hesitant to buy into Spain, a team who has yet to win a knockout round competition of any international competition. They have not won a knockout round match at the Euros. They have not won a knockout round match at the World Cup. So could this be the year they do it? Very likely, but not going to jump on the Spain bandwagon when they have yet to prove anything. Sorry. Sweden is, I think if I were to put money on someone, it would be Sweden, just because they have for the past 3 tournaments somehow ended up in the semifinals, and 2 of those have been a final. They made the final. No, one of those was the final. They made the final in the Olympics. Sorry, but 3 semifinals appearances in a row is something to maybe put your money on.
That's some big okay. So, I was actually this weekend. I was watching the most important football game in the world, where we got to see a place that isn't really used to glory and championships. Really get to enjoy that moment, and prove that anyone who doubted them was being really dumb. South Dakota State.
Yes. Nothing like Dakota Marker for a championship game.
Sweden's got a little South Dakota State in them. We keep getting close and keep getting slacked down by the same teams. What if this is our chance to kind of climb that mountain? Because look, man, for the longest time, it felt like South Dakota State wasn't going to be that team. Like they were, even when they were beating North Dakota State, it'd be like, "Hey, we beat North Dakota State twice in a year." Then what happened? Then they beat our ass in the championship or the semifinal. They got over the hump. What if Sweden gets over the hump?
Yep.
So you're saying Sweden are the Jackrabbits here in Dakota Marker as they're going up against North Dakota State, whoever that is, either England or the United States. I see how that works.
Sweden right now are plus 1,400, which is 6. Right, they're behind. Spain is plus 550, which again I would not put my money on Spain. Sorry, don't put your money on Spain. They have yet to prove anything at the international level. USA is the favorite at plus 300. These were from BetMGM back as of Monday. England is at plus 450, which would be my safe money personally at this point. Is put your safe money on England to win. Yeah. Germany at plus 650, France at plus 750. Sweden at plus 1,400, and then you have Australia also up there because they're a host nation, which is probably not a safe bet, but if you want to get crazy, you could.
So there's definitely some juice boxes that can be paid attention to today. On the telly, ESPN2's got Spanish Supercopa.
On the telly?
On the telly, yes, on the telly. Thank you.
My God.
Real Madrid and Valencia is on the deuce at 2:00. ESPN Deportes has that match, and the Hertha Millonarios friendly at 7. Gummy Bear Cup on the plus at 2:30 and 3:00. Nottingham Forest and Wolves. Juice Boxers have put a blanket over Nottingham Forest and Wolves. They're within the margin of error at about a plus 175. Manchester City's a big favorite at St. Mary's going up against Southampton. Real Madrid Valencia semis on the plus at 2:00, as is the Hertha Millonarios friendly. Copa Italia is on Paramount Plus at 3:00 with Milan and Torino. Ligue 1 is at 1 and at 3. And you can probably catch that on our friends at BN. And if you don't have BN through any of your streamers, any of your streaming services, you can go to Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here, and you can get a bunch of cool channels. And just go fntz.co/soccer down here at Fanatis. And you also got Liga de Expansión later tonight. You can probably catch that on VIX and VIX Plus. Cancun and Leones Negros and Sonora and Raya Dos. Parting shot, Bart Keeler.
This is going to be a very interesting test for the U.S. women as they face New Zealand. New Zealand is a team historically who loves to defend. That said, New Zealand is going to be missing a lot of players. As I mentioned, this is not an official FIFA international, so a lot of their players are going to be missing. So you have a fairly full-strength U.S. squad versus a depleted New Zealand squad, but still a test because you have a well-organized defensive team, and that's been the thing that the U.S. has been struggling to break down recently. So maybe Zlatko has pulled his head out of his ass over the past couple months and figured out how to get these girls how to score. We will see next Tuesday at 10 p.m.
Parting shot, Jared Smith.
Hey, low block exists because it works, I guess. Doesn't make it fun to watch. Just has to be effective. It doesn't have to be pretty. Parting shot is, I guess, some of that and some of, man, I don't know what's next for Atlanta. I know everybody had a really healthy discussion today on the Twitch pitch was firing off on all cylinders. The Twitch pitch looked like the missile silos going off in war games. That was something else.
Joshua was going through all the scenarios, and that was what the Twitch pitch was this morning.
Yeah, guess what? Not playing the game was not an option on this one. I don't know what's next for Atlanta United. What they do to fill that spot next, I don't know. We saw the rumors about South Korean striker possibly. Might be somewhere else. I don't know. There's bodies
Kai
out there.
Kamara is apparently available.
Yeah.
Kai Kamara is apparently available as per an Instagram post this morning.
Yeah, he is requesting it.
Yeah, so is the secondary coaching spot in Montreal. By the way, I don't know if you saw they fired their second team coach the day after they hired him, and it wasn't just like he said some things about Quebec. No, he called for like assassinations.
Yeah,
like
that's not good.
It wasn't just he tweeted something 8 years ago as a teenager. No, it was heavier than that.
Yeah, and when the Parti Québécois comes out with an official statement after the hiring, you know that's not a good.
A thing happened.
Yeah,
a thing has happened.
Yes.
But yeah, this is. I'm interested. I don't really need Kai Kamara in my life. Thank you. If we're gonna get like an older big striker, Olivier Giroud is right there, guys.
Ooh.
Listen, I am all for increasing the handsome quotient on Atlanta United, and that would probably do that to tenfold whatever we could possibly dream of, and I would be okay with that.
Not since Javi Lopez in the mid-90s will Atlanta have swooned so strongly.
I know.
I don't know what they do. Like we talked about before you got on this morning, Bart. Like, I hate that it ended this way.
I do too. I
hate that the sequence of events led to this ending. Because you never want it to with somebody who is that immortalized at a club. You never want it to end that way. You want it to end with the retirement from the club, like walking off the field for the last time. To thunderous applause, like getting subbed out in like the 70th minute of the game that you say is going to be your final. You want to go out the way, like JJ Watt did this weekend. I know it wasn't in Houston, but where he can say, "Yeah, I'm comfortable. This is it for me." And sometimes we don't get that, and it really sucks when it happens. Man, we'll see.
We'll have plenty more time to talk about that. I
believe that is accurate. So, Bart, what's the latest with the U.S. Soccer for U.S. POD and anything else going on?
Going to be recording tonight, and we'll hopefully get that out by Friday.
Okay. Nothing wrong with that.
So that's the game plan for that, and we'll talk after the U.S. women's friendlies. We'll talk about those, and then talk about the whatever the hell the men are going to do. Who knows? Yeah, might not even talk about them because Lord knows this. I'm just going to say it right now. These two friendlies mean literally nothing to me. I that doesn't mean I'm not going to watch them, but like the result, nothing about these friendlies matter in the grand scheme of things. So just be happy we get to watch soccer for a couple of nights more this month. That's the way I would look at it.
On HBO Max. So he is at Bartimus Prime 19 from the at Soccer for US POD. He's at Jared_Smith. I'm at OSG Nelson. This is at Soccer Down Here. That's a show on a Wall Pass Wednesday where we always anticipate that things are going to go off the rails.
Is Christian Pulisic actually Tracy McGrady, but in soccer form?
Yes. Wow. Yeah. That ain't wrong. That is not wrong. And so now that Bart is gonna go put something strong.
I've damaged Bart, so
yeah. Now that you've
job's done.
Yeah, there you go. Or
at least this means I get to care less about Chelsea than I already do.
Yeah. Ricky,
You finding the positives.
True, but Ricky says, or is he Carmelo Anthony?
Oh, he's not as good as Carmelo Anthony.
Okay, there you go. All right, so Tracy McGrady.
Sorry.
Until further notice, Christian Pulisic equals Tracy McGrady. So on a
Oh,
wall
it
pass,
hurt that much.
I know. So he's Bart, he's Jarrett, I'm John. Play it safe, everybody. Jarrett, send us home.
Mucha plata, yeah.
What he said. It's the end of the show. We'll be back tomorrow at 9:05. That means we get to do this. We'll see you later.